Hello and welcome to Science is Link with me, your host, Dr. Rosy Boa, not a medical doctor. And today I want to talk about something that is very important and a source of a lot of frustration for a lot of folks. I keep having the same conversations with folks, students, whether pole dancers, whatever, and I think it's worthwhile to bring that conversation and discussion to the podcast. And I will say this is not me authoritatively being like, this is the way things are. It is just going to be my thoughts, my observations, and I would love for this to be a continuing conversation. I'm pretty sure that most places where the podcast is posted, you'll be able to reply in comments, and I should get a notification. But you can also email me, info@slinkthroughstrength.com, or on Instagram, slink_through_strength. I don't check my TikTok messages that often. Sorry about it. So if you're coming from TikTok, try Instagram or email. So if you want to keep the conversation going, more than happy to talk about it. But I want to talk today about regressing. I want to talk about losing tricks. I want to talk about what happens when our capacity has been growing and expanding in a certain way, and then it stops doing that and is reduced. How do we deal with this? Right? This is not you've fallen off the bandwagon. Here's how to get back on. Check out my workout program. We'll whip you into shape, boot camp style. That's absolutely not what I'm doing here today. If that's what you need, please to find it elsewhere. There's lots and lots of great resources for you. But what I'm talking about is when the place that pole has in your life shifts, as it inevitably will, right? We are living creatures. We are constantly in flux. We are in a world that's undergoing a lot of change. A lot of people's financial capacity has changed recently. A lot of people's just sort of general stress levels have changed. We had COVID, which was a mass disabling event. A lot of folks have acquired new disabilities as part of that. A lot of people are now caregivers who weren't previously, right? There's so much going on that means that as a population, we have reduced capacity for our fun hobbies, which just is the way it is, right? And I mean, obviously I do what I do. I still think it is worthwhile to make time for your fun, enjoyable hobbies, especially if it helps you build community, if it has a social component, because that's so important for your well-being and your just like being happy as a human, right? We're social. We're not eusocial, we're not bees, but we're social. We're like wolves, right? You need a social community. And also in terms of physical activity, right? It's good for your body, you know that. I'm not going to harp on it. But I think it can also be a source of shame, a source of self-criticism when in the past, as you've been, growing in pole, you have been praised and you have gotten positive attention for achievements, for learning new movements, for getting stronger, for getting more flexible. And at some point that's going to stop happening. Either you'll plateau, you're just not going to have any more time to train, you might get injured, you might regress for that reason. There just might be other stuff in your life, right? Like maybe you have a kid now and your schedule is just less flexible and you have less time and you have other demands. And listen, I love pole. It's really important to me. Don't prioritize it over, your dependents. Don't prioritize it over, fucking putting food on the table. It is valuable and it's important, it's good, but it should not be your number one value and priority. And if it is, that's a problem. And I'm saying this as a pole teacher, right? So, things change. And you are no longer getting new achievements, and maybe you are starting to lose things, right? Something you worked very hard for and that made you feel very accomplished to do, you can no longer do, right? Like you've lost a trick. And this is something, I want to be very frank, if you do pole long enough, this will happen to you. Even if you are continuing to increase your physical capacity, you're getting stronger, you're getting more flexible. There are so many different directions that we can be exploring in our physicality. There are so many different pole movements that have so many different requirements of our body that unless you are evenly training everything you've ever learned, and nobody does that, and also you shouldn't be trying to do that, you'll get fluctuations, right? So maybe you're training your splits more, and movements that require that sort of mobility, like maybe your jade, are starting to feel better, but you're not training, let's say, your shoulder mount conditioning strength quite as much, and so your shoulder mounts just feel a little bit heavier, your splits moves feel a little bit better, and maybe later in a different training season, those will fluctuate and change in a different way. So losing things is not necessarily indicative of an overall lessening of capacity. And even if it is, it's okay. That is normal. Life changes, things change. And besides that, I would really encourage you, if you are someone whose sense of worth, whose sense of value, whose sense of pride in pole comes from being able to do specific movements, I would strongly encourage you to try to deconstruct that before you lose those movements. Because it's going to happen, not to be macabre, but it's going to happen at some point, right? Unless, you meet an untimely end, and I hope you don't. As you age, your capacity is going to change, and eventually you're not going to have a very large pole vocabulary if you're still doing pole, which I'm not saying don't, right? I don't think there's an upper age limit on pole, but there probably is an upper age limit on, let's say, Fonji. Not seeing a ton of folks in their 90s doing Fonjis. And if you're like, I am who I am as a person because I can do a Fonji, I can't do a Fonji. I have no intention of doing a Fonji. I'm never going to train you, but I'm just picking a movement. And you lose that, you are going to have an identity crisis, and it's going to feel bad in addition to whatever it is that caused you to lose the trick. Because generally, hopefully what I've been getting at, it's clear, generally we lose things when we have other stressors, especially if we're using a lot of stuff sort of unilaterally. And adding to whatever stressors are in your life, this sort of self-recrimination, tearing yourself down, that sort of loss of identity of I'm a person who does X trick, just adds unnecessary pain on top of that. You don't need to do that to yourself, right? So I think it can be really helpful and really valuable, regardless of where you are in your pole journey, to spend some time to deconstruct the idea that a poler is good because they can do certain movements, because they tick certain tick boxes, or that you are good or valuable because of that. So how do we deal with this, right? And it's hard, right? It is a genuinely hard process. And if you're going through it now, especially if you're going through it after you've lost something, if you have a therapist, definitely talk about this with your therapist. I think they are more well equipped to deal with the sort of psychological support of this. I am really more talking about, like, as an instructor, my recommendations as a pole coach. So the first thing I would do is develop the skill, develop the habit of noticing what you enjoy about your movement. And if you've taken my freestyle classes, you've probably heard me talk about developing the skill of noticing. And I mean by that several different things, right? So one, I mean developing your proprioception, your physical sense of where your body is in space. I mean tuning in to the subtle sensations from your body, your interoception. Are you feeling stretch? Where? Are you feeling work? Where? Do you want to feel stretch or work? Where? And this draws a lot on interoception, which is your sense of the inside of your body. And just as a side here for neurodivergent folks, especially if you're autistic, this skill is just going to take longer for you to learn, just sort of based on population level studies. You can learn it. Perceptual learning is possible at any life stage. It's just going to take a little longer for you than it will for an holistic person. So just on average, your mileage may vary. Little pin on that. And also, I want you to develop an aesthetic sense, an aesthetic appreciation, even a hedonistic appreciation, right? Notice what is pleasurable in your dance. And this is the skill that has served me so well as my ability fluctuates, as my capacity fluctuates, as I lose tricks that I worked really hard for, and then I can't do them anymore. There's a while, actually, right after I opened the studio, when I just couldn't shoulder mount anymore, and I worked so hard for shoulder mount for so long. And I did eventually get it back, but while I didn't have it, I was actively working on finding what I was enjoying in my dance and finding that pleasure and leaning into it so that I had a reason to keep coming back. Because if you set yourself up for training session after training session, working on the same trick and failing, likely to get overuse injuries. But also, that's really demoralizing. I would say that there's a very small percentage of people who find repeated failure without success, especially doing something physically uncomfortable, to be inherently motivating. Most people are not going to be motivated by that, right? Focusing, instead of trying to find that feeling of achievement, I got it, I did it, haha, which feels great. And I don't think it's bad to find and enjoy that, but I think it's also important to bring our attention to other parts of our dance and notice other things and find other things that bring you enjoyment. So I mentioned that sense of sort of hedonic enjoyment. What feels good? Something in your dance, particularly your freestyle, should be physically pleasurable and physically enjoyable. This is a sweeping generalization, but moving your body is good for your body, right? Even just on a mechanical level. If you're moving your synovial joints, you're lubricating those joints, that's great for joint longevity. We all know, cardio is good for your heart, blah, blah, blah. Freestyle counts as cardio. By the way, you will not catch me on a treadmill, but I will definitely freestyle for 20 minutes and be like, haha, did it. So there should be something enjoyable in their movement. If everything's painful, if everything is uncomfortable, I would see a physical therapist. I would bring it up with your coach. You're doing something wrong, right? There should be parts of your movement practice that are inherently motivating, intrinsically motivating because they feel good. And learning to notice what feels good and learning to develop that muscle of, hey, this feels good, I'm allowed to do more of it, and I'm going to do more of it is such an important thing for your longevity and pole, for feeling good, for being nice to yourself, for finding enjoyment, and also for helping you get through those parts of your life where you are more stressed, you need the physical activity, you need the socialization, you need a nice thing in your day when shit's fucking rough out here. I know I'm not the only person who goes to pole in part to feel better mentally and physically, so I need to be able to find something that makes me feel better mentally and physically in pole besides just like pushing myself, doing a bunch of shit that sucks and hoping I get some endorphins at the end of it. And like I said, I think a small portion of people do find that inherently motivating, and if that is you, fantastic. For me at least, that's not what gets me out of bed in the morning, right? So building that skill of noticing, building your physical ability to notice, but also the habit of being like, this feels good. I'm liking this. This is fun. A while ago, I started a habit of when I was enjoying myself, like hanging out with friends or something, I would say out loud, this is really nice. I'm enjoying this. I'm having a nice time. And it really helped me notice that and cherish and savor those moments. So if you want to do that, feel free. I found it very helpful. You might as well. So that's noticing within yourself. And again, this is something that I do a lot with my students. If you take a freestyle class with me, you've heard me yatter on about this. The other thing is noticing in other people, right? And I think part of what can make losing a trick feel so challenging, so bad, is that we admire other people's technical achievements. We admire other people's moves. We like, that photo of someone who gets like their Aisha with the angles great, fantastic. The Superman they've been working towards, a flat jade, right? There are things that we have been told through repetition, through community support as a community that we should value and enjoy and celebrate. And I'm not saying we should not celebrate them. I want to be very, very clear. I do think they're not the only things worth celebrating. So the other part of the noticing skill I really encourage you to work on is enjoying other people's movement removed from that filter of technical excellence, perfection. Those of you who have unfortunately gotten ballet brained at some point in the past, this may be a harder sell for you. It may be very challenging for you to address that inner critic who is also praising people for things that you have decided that you value and not noticing other things about their movement that are, perhaps inspiring. And, you're taking that same lens and, right, if that movement is beautiful because, their jade is flat and your jade isn't flat, does that mean that your movement isn't beautiful, right? I think that that's the double-edged sword. And you'll see this a lot in comments, right? When someone's like, oh, first pole class, and someone in the comments is like, you didn't even point both your toes for that. And I think that if the metric that you have been given and the model of appreciation that has been performed for you is, did this person do a checklist of specific things, which is very much the way some people coach and teach pole. And I think for other people, that is very motivating. I'm not saying it's inherently wrong. I am saying it sets you up for, in the future, when you can't tick those tick boxes, you're going to get this feeling of, oh, I've done this wrong. Oh, I'm bad. And you're going to internalize that shame and maybe some guilt. And it's going to make pole stop feeling good. So how do we deal with this? We notice different things. So a great exercise for this is to find a pole dancer who I would say you consider to be at your technical level, who you consider to be a peer, or who you would consider to be slightly less good than you, technically, right? They're working on tricks that you feel like you've mastered, or did master and then lost. And watch their videos with an eye for what you can appreciate. Maybe it helps to pause a bunch and freeze frame and be like, oh yeah, that shape is really lovely, right? Oh yeah, it's not a flat J, but maybe there's a curve to it that's really lovely, or there's sort of a bend of the knees that really draws the eye along a specific line, or it's just interesting. It's just something you've never seen before, and what they're bringing is novelty and intrigue. And watch their videos, and maybe for each minute-long video, notice 3 things that you really liked that weren't technical. right? That were about a type of expression, maybe musicality. You're like, oh wow, they really like embodied this part of the lyrics. I can really see that in their dance. Or maybe I really like the way the sort of the light caught across, their face as they were dancing at this particular point in the music. Or I could hear them breathing, and their breathing was sort of syncing with the music like it was its own instrument, right? I genuinely believe that there is something that any dance, yes, even that one that you're thinking about, has something in it that is valuable, that you can learn to appreciate, that you can develop your eye for, right? Just like you can learn to tell apart, lots of different colors, right? Or you can, get really good at wine tasting, or you can get really good at like identifying notes in perfume. That same skill set can teach you to find the beauty in other people's dances. And once you have that, once you can find the beauty in other people's dances, you can take that same skill and turn it on yourself, right? You can take that lens of appreciation, you can take that lens of discernment, of enjoyment, and you can bring it to yourself. And again, this is detached from technical excellence. This is attached from, did they get the move? Did they hit their spot? Whatever. This is, what is it about this particular moment of embodiment, of expression, of enjoyment that I can also derive enjoyment from, right? We are a performing art. You never have to do pole for anyone. Well, I mean, if you're working at the club, you do kind of have to do pole for people, but I'm talking to hobbyists. Hobbyists, you never have to do pole for anyone. This may be just your private thing that is only ever just for you and no one ever sees, and that is perfectly fine. And maybe you never film yourself, you never have any visual reflection of your dance at all, you never use a mirror, also perfectly fine. And for you, if that's you, I would say focus more on the physical feelings. But if you enjoy that visual aspect, if you enjoy watching other people's dance, focus on finding those moments of visual appreciation of things that you genuinely like. And I, again, in my heart of hearts, I believe, and if you're like, but Rosie, I'm such a baby pole dancer, I'm so clumsy, I'm not graceful at all, I'm not doing anything cool or interesting, wrong. I love watching people who are really early on in their pole journey. I love the sort of like the freshness of the relationship. I love the sense of exploration, especially for like really mature freestylers. It's kind of rare to see them at their edge, right? Because they have expanded their capacity and they've got lots of space to play in. If you are newer, if you're coming back, if you have that sort of reintroduction, that reconnection with an old flame, there's so much beauty and there's so much joy to be had from watching other people's dance and your own dance with genuine enjoyment, with genuine delight that this person, and it might be you might be the person, has taken time from their day to embrace expression and creativity in this truly ephemeral art form. Even if you take the world's best video, you get the world's best picture, you're never going to recreate that moment again, right? It's sandcastles. It's all disappearing as it's built, and embracing that and noticing as you're moving through a beautiful moment, oh God, this is beautiful. It's such a gift for yourself, and it's a huge gift for your future self when, your capacity changes, things shift in your life, and you're like, I really felt good about myself for doing X, and now I can't do X anymore. You do not have to feel bad about yourself. You can be like, you know what? I can't do X anymore, and that is just the flat truth. Maybe at some point I'll have capacity to work towards doing X again. Maybe X will come back in my body. Maybe it never will, right? It doesn't matter one way or the other, because there is still space for you to find exploration and enjoyment, even in simple things, even in easy things. If you're not watching, I'm doing air quotes here. Simple in quotes, easy in quotes. Even in things that are not big or interesting or pretty, again, all these air quotes after air quotes, there's still beauty in expression, there's beauty in vulnerability, and I would encourage you to look for it in others so that you can see it in yourself, and you can turn that same soft, loving lens that you have honed on you. All right. And I think it will genuinely help you when stressors in your life come up, because they fucking will. Tell me about it, bud. Do tell me about it. If you're one of my students and you've, shit's gotten stressful, let me know. It'll help me to know where you are and what you need support with. But But also, when you lose tricks, you will have something else. There will be something richer and deeper and with more longevity than just, I could do, the latest hottest Instagram trick. And if, that's what's fun for you and that's what you enjoy, that is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But having the second skill set, this skill set of appreciation, the skill set of noticing, this ability to be like, that feels good, I want more of that. And then doing more of that will really help you find dance, find enjoyment, find fulfillment, find support and joy, especially when shit gets going, into the future and as things change around you. So I would really, really encourage you to work on those skills. Be nice to yourself. Shit's hard. Shit's hard for everybody. It's a rough time, right? We can all acknowledge that. But that doesn't mean that you have to be rough on yourself. You can be soft with yourself. You can find joy in your own movement. And I hope that you do. And I hope that it is a source of succor and sweetness and delight in a world that could use more of all those things. All right, that's what I got today off my soapbox. Again, more based on my experience than a specific research, although some of the stuff that I did mention is research findings. So yeah, hope you're doing well, and perhaps I will slink with you soon. Oh, and I almost forgot to do this. Shout out to my members, man. Y'all, hearts to you. Y'all are making time to show up for yourself and take care of your bodies and move. And hopefully you're finding this joy. Hopefully you're building this skill of enjoyment for yourself and for other people. And I'm proud of y'all. I'm proud of y'all. All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.